today's episode of Juicing the Numbers. I'm your host, Joshua Tracy.
And I'm Kel Grant.
And we're gonna talk about a whole smattering of topics yet again. We're gonna work through a lot of baseball shit. You may notice at the top of the show that we are missing once again Corwin Heller. He has a growing mass in his throat and is therefore incapable of coming on. What? That's true. So we're just wishing him the best. We miss you, buddy. He should be back on his feet in a couple days, but he is not here now. So in his stead, we have, for the second time on the show, my lovely girlfriend, Kel.
Oh, thank you so much.
And we're going to talk about some baseball shit. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, you better be. All right. So one of the first things that I had prepped, that I was thinking about, that I thought we could talk about, is the idea of game score. All right? So not like the literal score of a game. Pitchers, based on their performance, get what's called a game score.
Okay.
And I've been seeing this a lot in my emails from Baseball Reference. They send out the Stat Head emails, which I reference a lot on the show, which are great. I love them. And next to every pitcher's final line, they have a game score, which I've never actually seen anywhere other than a few baseball forums and this email. Like, I've never seen them on a broadcast, I don't think. And I don't think I've ever seen them heard them on any of the radio shows I'd listened to. So I was curious about how it's done.
Okay.
And it's actually pretty straightforward.
Hit me.
Okay, so first, you start with a baseline of 50 points, okay? So it's not like on a scale of anything. It's just like, here's 50 points, and we're going to work from there, all right?
Okay.
You add 1 point for every out. So every time you get an out, you get a point. So that's 3 points per inning.
These are pitching stats, right?
Yeah, this is it's like a way of measuring how well a pitcher did.
Okay.
And it really drew my attention a lot because the other day, the Yankees had a doubleheader, and James Paxton pitched one end of it, and then the next end of it was opened by Chad Green, who's a relief pitcher. And James Paxton threw 6 innings, and Chad Green threw 1.1 innings, and they actually ended up with the same game score, which was very confusing, so I had to look up how it happened.
Okay.
So 1 point per out. You add 2 points for each inning completed after the fourth. You add 1 point for each strikeout. So that's all of the addition we do. 50 points, 1 point per out, 2 points per inning, each inning completed after the fourth, and 1 point for each strikeout. Subtractions. You subtract 2 points per hit. You subtract 4 points for every earned run. You subtract 2 points for every unearned run, and you subtract 1 point for every walk. So if we go over to the email I got today containing the pitching performances for all of yesterday's pitchers, right? Ivan Nova pitched 9 innings of 0-run ball. All right? Where do you think he's going to lie in this? Where do you think his game score is going to be about? If you had to guess.
9 innings, and there were 0 runs.
0 runs. That's all I'm going to give you to start.
Okay. So you're not telling me hits or anything like that?
Nope.
So 9 innings after the fourth. So that's 5, and you get plus 2. So that's 10. So 60. So I'd say 85?
Ooh, you were so close. It was 80. 80
okay.
on the nose. Yeah, so he had 9 innings, which if you get 3 points per inning, that alone is going to be 27 points.
Right.
You throw that on to the 50 you already had, and you're already at 77.
Gotcha. Okay.
Then you add the 2 points for each inning after the fourth. So that's the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th. So that's another 10 points. So now we're up to 87. He also had 3 strikeouts. So that's 3 more points. So now we're up to 90. And the only derogatory marks against him look like the hits. although I'm sure I'm forgetting something out of this. But regardless, is the hits, and he only had 4 of them. So I actually ended up, somehow I got to 82 instead of 80, and I don't know how I did it. But, yeah, fucking go figure. Since he had 0 walks, and, but what do you, does that seem to make sense to you? So like, if I told you, so Madison Bumgarner also pitched yesterday.
Okay.
7 innings, 1 earned run, 2 hits, 9 strikeouts, 0 walks. His game score was 78, only 2 points fewer than Ivan Nova's, who pitched 9 innings with 0 earned runs.
Right.
But the reason that they're so close is because Ivan Nova had only 3 strikeouts, whereas Madison Bumgarner threw 9 strikeouts.
Yeah.
And Ivan Nova let up 4 hits, whereas Madison Bumgarner only let up 2 hits.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that seemed to flow to you?
Mm-hmm. Why do they start with 50 points, though? Where does that 50 come from?
That's probably just to make this look a little bit closer to like it would be on a scale to 100.
Okay.
You know, it's relatively arbitrary, but it probably looks more familiar. You know, so that way you can look at it and be like, oh, 80, that's pretty high. Because, you know, I know that this is probably only going to be, like, there's only a handful of games that have approached 100, I'm pretty sure. Right. Or I think there's one game that's gone over 100. Because since it's not actually out of 100, you can. Mm-hmm. But if I had to guess, that's what because if there was also, like, you can have a game score below 50. But if you didn't add those 50 points, it'd be negative. And then it's like, all right, what am I looking at here?
Right. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many... Like, you were asking me about FIP last night, and FIP has this constant in it that's only there to make it look more like ERA, just so you know how to read it. And that's... Stats will do that pretty frequently. Just give them something for some readability.
Got it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to move on?
Let's do it.
All right. So... let's move into. We have, like I said, I have a whole bunch of things here, so I'm just going to kind of be picking at random.
Okay.
So let's move in to teams who swing the most, and this is kind of so we did chase rate like a while ago, and chase rates for when you swing at balls that are like we did in the zone and then we did out of the zone, and we did batting average based on each one, and it was a really interesting little topic. We did it on the player level. So what I was curious about, though, is swinging and not chasing, swinging. Okay. And you often see like players like this player X has like lowered his swing percent and his walk rate is like way up, right? Or you know, player Y swings at everything and his strikeout rate's really high, but he has a good hitting. I just want to know if you are a team that like, and we're doing it on the team levels because I figured it'd be easier. Okay. If you are a team that swings a lot, how you doing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So let's
What teams swing a lot?
Well, Detroit, which is not a good start. Detroit swings looking like the most. They swing the bat over 50% of the time, which is high. Yeah. And that's not good because Detroit's offense isn't good. Like if we go over to standard team batting here, which I have up on Baseball Reference, Detroit, their OPS is 78. Oh, OPS plus, I should say. That's awful. That's second worst in all of baseball, just behind the Miami Marlins. Wow. And if we try to find Miami on this list, because it's not alphabetical, which is kind of annoying, they swing... 47.9% of pitches, which is a touch above league average, so it sounds like they're just not making the most of it. The team that swings raw, like has the most swings by just volume, not percentage, is Boston, and their offense is pretty fucking good. They're pitching. Their problem this season's mostly just been pitching. Boston coming in at a 109 OPS plus, which is good for 5th place by the looks of it. Let's see. My New York Yankees. Yeah. Our boys. Mm-hmm. The people's team. They have a 120 OPS plus as a team. Do you think that they're going to end up be swinging the bat a lot, a little, or middle of the road?
And what was Boston again? What was there?
Boston was 5th, and they swung the bat the most, but as a percentage, we're relatively middle of the pack. The league average percent for this is 47.03.
Okay.
And Boston swung the bat at 47.5% of the pitches that they faced.
But what was their OPS plus?
It was 109. So
and the Yankees are what?
120.
120?
Yeah, we're way better than those posers.
Okay. I'm going to say we swing the bat more.
So apparently we swing it considerably less.
Really?
Yeah. New York swings at 46.2% at the total number of pitches that they see. So that might sound like it's a little bit because it's only like 1.3 actual percentage points. But considering the margins we're working with, it's actually a pretty sizable amount since most of these teams fall within the 47.5 range, 48.5 range.
Okay.
So I'm having a hard time deciphering if I think this actually means anything because it seems like teams are kind of all over the place.
Right.
Boston's a little bit above. Detroit's a little bit above. Those are both teams that are one team that's very good, one team that's very bad.
Mm-hmm.
Miami's a little bit below. New York's a little bit below. Those are also both teams that are very good and very bad. So I'm not sure I'm really finding much meaning out of it, but I did think it was one of those questions where I wanted it to mean something.
Yeah.
I really did. And so far, I just don't think it does.
Well, now we know.
Well, I was wondering if, like the teams that swing the most, are they going to have a higher slugging percent? Because slugging is going to take away, like your batting average and everything. It's going to only be like, all right, out of the pitches you hit, what'd you do with them?
Mm-hmm.
But it really seems like it's just no. So, like, all right, let's sort out by slugging instead. Minnesota is our top slugging team. All right, they are slugging 497, which is 8 points above New York, and Minnesota is swinging the bat at 48.7% of the pitches that they face, which is above league average.
Right.
But then you have right after that New York. We said earlier they're swinging below league average, and then you have Houston. Third in slugging percent, and they're way down at 45.3% of pitches swung at. So that you could just say at that point they're making the most out of the pitches that they're hitting and just choosing not to hit pitches that they don't think are worth it. Right. Which is a good strategy. But then you have teams like all right, hold on, maybe actually now that I'm looking at it, maybe Boston's the odd man out here. Let's look at the bottom of this list. Okay. All right. Miami is slugging 367. That's bad. That's really bad. Yikes. That is not good. Yeah. Yikes is definitely right here. And they're swinging just above league average of 47.9% of the time. All right, then Detroit, they're slugging 387, and they're swinging the bat 50.1% of the time. That was the most. Mm-hmm. Then Chicago is slugging 396. I didn't realize Chicago was slugging that poorly. That's really, really not good. And they're swinging 49.1% of the time. All right, so
well
far,
above.
All these teams have been above. Let's keep it going a little bit. Ooh, let's look at Baltimore. I'm actually surprised Baltimore's not last in the league on this. Baltimore is slugging 412. I think all of that's probably Trey Mancini, who's their one of their only players worth a damn. I know that name does not mean much to you right now,
not.
But that's okay. He's very good. I hope he lives through the rebuild in Baltimore because I think he's deserved it. 47.9. So they're also slightly above average. Now I might be coming back around. Yeah. Now I might be thinking I'm onto something here.
Making some sense of these numbers?
I just want to know. So, all right, hold on. Oh, the Dodgers are below. The Dodgers are below by a lot. 44.9% of their pitches swung at. And they have a very good offense. I don't know. What do you... Toronto's below. Their offense isn't bad. Philly's below. Their offense isn't bad. Oh, Seattle. Seattle's there, and Seattle's not good. Maybe I just talked myself. I'm gonna say that inconclusive.
Okay, that's fair.
What I hoped to get out of it was something along the lines of, is swinging going to pertain... I just want to see some correlation between swinging and either slugging, OPS, or like strikeouts and walks. Mm-hmm. And it seems like it's relatively all over the place. At the end there, I'm thinking maybe there might be a touch in favor for teams not swinging as much. We've often heard about balanced approaches, taking your walks, only swinging at pitches you think you can do damage on, and that could be true. Maybe team age, like player age per team, might be a factor there too. Young players tend to swing more often than older players do. Older players have that good batter's eye,
right?
You know. But I don't know. You see anything in there that meant anything to you there, Cal?
No, Joshua, I did not.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. Ready to move on to the next thing?
Let's do it.
The next of the 7,000 StatCast tabs I have open. You wanted to look at sprint speed. You were curious about how fast people are.
Yeah, because I know when we were watching some of the Yankees games that like there are really fast players, and you've told me that like if that were anybody else, like they wouldn't have gotten to first base. And then it also takes into account if there's an error and the ball is late getting to first and things like that. But some of them have been really close calls, so I was wondering how much speed actually has to do with it.
So, what in your mind is going to be? Do you have any reference for what fast is in baseball?
I don't.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough sport for that.
Okay.
Because it's just very specific.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's these very precise distances for things, and it's like how fast can you go from plate to plate? But that's kind of even that. I wonder if it's a really good measurement, because plate to plate it's 90 feet.
Okay.
Everyone's running more than 90 feet though,
mm-hmm.
because no one's running linearly. Everyone's running at a curve, because you got to be ready to take your next base. The only base that I think players might be running in a more linear fashion is first or second. Everything else, you're pretty much getting ready to make a turn, which means you're running more than 90 feet.
Right.
So I think a 90-foot sprint is pretty useless.
Okay.
But, yeah, baseball is weird with that. So apparently, the fastest player in baseball is Tim LeCastro, the left fielder for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Okay.
And I'm not sure I know who he is. So,
well, I certainly don't.
Yeah, like the next few I know, like Trey Turner for Washington's apparently tied for second fastest with Byron Buxton and Miles Straw. And like, I know those people.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to say, by and large, I'm not fully familiar with a lot of who these dudes are. What I am interested in, though, is if we could deviate off of sprint speed to another metric that StatCast has here, home plate to first base. It apparently changes.
Oh, okay.
Because, like I said, sprint speed is like, I think they use it for like you like really chugging around the bases, you know?
Okay.
Whereas home plate to first also involves like how fast can you get from just those stations, like how fast can you break from your swing and go into your run to actually touch first base.
Right, which would be different than your just
right, because like
sprint.
some players,
yeah.
I'm sure, have like a higher sprint speed because they can like pick up speed as they're running more,
okay.
whereas some players might just be faster out of the gate. And that's kind of right in that our top 5 changed. So our original top 5 for sprint speed is Tim LeCastro, Miles Straw, Byron Buxton, Trey Turner, and Isaac Galloway of Miami.
Okay.
When we do it as home plate to first instead, our top 5 is now number 1, Cody Bellinger of the Dodgers, which is an interesting addition. Then Tim LeCastro, Miles Straw, Byron Buxton, and Kevin Kiermaier. So it does change. Both of those guys who have like good sprint speeds, like they're both like top end sprint speeds, but their actual, I guess that specific stretch of their running ability is just so much better than the rest of it. And in my mind, I think that's probably the more useful one.
Home plate to first.
Yeah, because getting on base is always going to be more valuable than not getting on base.
Okay, yeah.
But getting to second, like say you're legging out a double, is never going to be like the value of being on first as compared to back in the dugout will always be more than the value of being on second as compared to being on first.
Right. Okay.
Obviously, second base is more valuable, but being on first is infinitely more valuable than sitting down.
Right. Okay.
Not doing anything. Do you have any more questions particular to sprint speed?
Well, yeah. What's the actual speed?
Oh, I didn't say it, did I?
No, you didn't.
All right. So the fastest man in baseball, Tim LaCastro, 30.6 feet per second.
Okay. So if there's 90 feet between bases,
it takes him a little under 3 seconds to go from base to base.
But then what's his home plate to first?
3.96. 3.96, which I'm assuming is seconds.
Right. So that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, so he has like a slightly slower, I guess, home to first time because he didn't build up speed yet. Like you have to go out of a dead standstill, basically. Mm-hmm. So that seems to flow pretty well. Let's see who the slowest is. It's got to be catchers. Oh, it's a lot of catchers. Catcher, first base, DH, catcher, DH, first base. Yeah. Yeah. The slowest guy's Brian McCann. Yeah, that makes sense.
What's he running?
22.1 feet per second. That's awful.
Oh.
Yeah. Running doesn't describe what Brian McCann does.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the bottom five is Brian McCann, Albert Pujols, Yadi Molina, Wilson Ramos, and AJ Reed, who I don't even know who that is. Wow, what a bottom five. So many catchers. So many. Bobby Wilson, Austin Allen, Sandy Leon, Chad Wallach. Ooh, can I look at just catchers? I wonder if any of them are actually good at this. I can. All right, babe. This is the only time I think Gary Sanchez is going to be like a leader.
All right, let's see.
I'm really hoping here that Gary Sanchez, because he always gets. I always hear that he's a quicker catcher. Let's see if that. Oh, he might actually not have enough plate appearances to measure up on this, does he? Austin Romine, Kyle Higashioka. Ooh, he spent time on the IL. Sorry, I made a mistake. Yeah. Ooh.
So what's the fastest catcher?
All right, the fastest catcher based on only 10 minimum opportunities. Gary Sanchez has to be on this list then. Regardless, the fastest catcher is Jorge Alfaro, actually, of the Miami Marlins, followed by JT Realmuto of the Philadelphia Phillies, and then Garrett Stubbs of the Houston Astros. And they clock in, respectively, at 28.8 feet per second, 28.6 feet per second, and 27.9 feet per second, which is actually, that's pretty quick.
Right. I mean, based on the lowest being 22 feet per second. So.
Yeah, that's pretty fast. Yeah, so Brian McCann's 22.1 is still the worst because he's still a catcher. Mm-hmm. Which is a full 6 seconds longer or slower than the top guy. And his home plate to first is 5 seconds, whereas Jorge Alfaro's is 4.3. That's actually pretty considerable. Huh.
Okay. Here's another question. So, what position in baseball requires you to have speed? Would that be shortstop?
So that's an interesting question. I would say center field. Okay. Probably the most. Shortstop, you need to be quick. But you don't necessarily need to run fast. Okay. Because you don't have a lot of area to cover. But the area you do have to cover, you have to be able to cover quickly. Mm-hmm. Center field, you need to cover a lot of area. And you need to do it quickly. Okay. So usually your fastest guys. So like if we go back to like the all positions, like we had it set to before, and I read out some of I'm going to bet it's going to be a lot of outfielders. Okay. Because center field the most, but like in general, outfielders need to be able to be all over the place. So just reading out like the top 5 to 10 positions here: left field, shortstop for Trey Turner, center field, shortstop for Miles Straw, center field, left field, center field, left field.
Got it.
Yeah, a lot of outfielders. You need to be able to get to the ball. You know. Makes
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Oh, I counted an error. Damn it, Baseball Savant. Yeah, I think Baseball Savant's just telling me, man, go outside. Yeah. You've done this too much. Try again later. All right. So one of the other things I wanted to look at was the shift.
Okay.
What is the shift?
That I don't know. Please explain it to me.
I got you. All right. So It's been around for a very long time, but it's been very much so more popular in the last decade, 15 years or so.
Okay.
The Tampa Bay Rays have been one of the biggest proponents of it, but now pretty much every team in baseball does it. The idea is that players tend to hit the ball in certain spots,
Okay.
right? So if JD Martinez of the Red Sox comes up, based on his life's history of hitting,
Mm-hmm.
he tends to hit the ball in the infield to these specific spots,
Right.
right? These quadrants, these sections. Whereas if Justin Upton comes up of the Angels, he tends to hit the ball in different spots or the same spots, doesn't matter. So what the shift is it's saying, well, let's take that data we have of where he puts the ball and put fielders there instead of having them be in their traditional spot.
Right.
So instead of, third base, shortstop, second, and first all standing in their traditional spots, let's say move the shortstop to where the second baseman is, move the second baseman into like a shallow right field, and then put the third baseman where the shortstop goes, or like some combination of that.
Right.
So that way you have more fielders covering the area where the ball gets put more often based on this hitter's particular spray chart.
Right. They showed us something like that during the game, right?
Mm-hmm. It's one of the parts of the broadcast I'm really glad is getting added because I think it's really going to hit the nail on the head in terms of explaining to older and newer fans as to why the shift is there. Because a lot of old-time fans don't like it because they think it's like, analytics ruining the game when it's just being smart.
Yeah.
So I wanted to look at, just out of curiosity, what the shift has been looking like for teams this season
Okay.
in terms of its effectiveness. So what I did was I looked up ground balls. We'll do ground balls and line drives because the shift kind of covers both. So ground balls that went for a base hit just in general in the MLB. And actually this one was for sprint speed, but that's okay. And what I'm trying to see here is like, who's doing it?
Mm-hmm.
How often is it being done? And then we'll kind of subtract out from there as we get more generalized if my search ever decides to load.
We're looking at teams, right? Or
Oh, I put it in as batters. There's so many fields. It's too many fields. It needs to be fewer fields.
yeah, I've never actually seen you pull this page up, but that looks like a lot of drop-down menus.
It's the most drop-down menus in the world. So, you know what? We'll get back to it. Let's look
Okay.
at some team stuff.
All right.
So, for this, I'm looking at... I have it set to singles, doubles, and triples because the only thing I don't want is a home run because that has to be pretty much a fly ball.
Okay.
With the exception, I guess, of like Little League home runs and in-the-park home runs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at ground balls and line drives with poor to weak contact with the shift on as a team. All right? So what team has basically, what this amounts to, what team has beaten the shift the most? And the answer is the Texas Rangers.
They're the most successful with the shift, or something?
They're the most successful as beating the shift. How many hits
As batter. Okay, yeah.
does this team have with the shift on, with balls that you would usually quantify as being balls that would be caught by the shift,
Right.
right? And I was kind of questioning the whole contact level part because you can hit the ball really hard, but I wanted to try to find a way to make this very specific to where the shift would capture it.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought maybe by setting it to poor weak contact might be like the wrong way of looking at it. Because you can hit a ball very hard into the shift and still make it made an out.
Make a hit. Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, if I have it set to like line drive, then it could go over players' heads. It might not count, etc. But anyway, this is where we're at.
Okay.
So even though the Texas Rangers have beaten the shift in this way the most, it's still only 12 times they've done it throughout the season thus far. That's not a lot.
Oh, wow.
That's very, very few. Actually, the fewest on here is it's a four-way tie between the Arizona Diamondbacks, the Chicago White Sox, the Miami Marlins, and the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, the worst name in baseball, with only three times they've done. So this is apparently, at least in the parameters I have it set as, is a very difficult thing to do. If we were to take away the contact element, I can get back to you with what that would look like. But it's seemingly from the jump here pretty effective. If the most times a shift has been beaten in that way is 12,
right?
That seems to be exactly what you're going for by putting the shift on.
So is a shift a defense that is played during the entire game for a team or just for specific players?
For one batter.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm doing it as a team because it's just going to aggregate better.
Okay.
I don't need to know how many times Jorge Alfaro beat the shift.
Right.
Because then I need to sit there and do like a lot more math than is necessary.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So let's now look at it where it results in any kind of out, about any kind of out, a ground ball and or a line drive, weak contact with the shift on, and it results in an out. The team that has hit into the most of these outs is the Texas Rangers.
Again,
hit into 31 of them. So even if we take it with just these two types, right? Just these two very specific, very, very specific, like parameter-wise instances, you can already see how different it is. Basically, the Rangers have only beat the shift, in quotes, 12 times, whereas they have fallen subject to the shift 31 times. It's a 19-time discrepancy.
Right.
And you will take that. You can basically say that you have taken away a net 19 hits. And I think, if we change out these parameters a little bit with, like I said, the quality of contact, maybe there's just a better way of using these drop-downs than I am to make these numbers. The only way to make them, you can't really make it smaller from here with it making sense, but you can definitely make it larger. You can definitely see just based on that small trend right there, this is worth it. Especially for a team like the Rangers, apparently, who are fallen subject to this many times. So
the Rangers have only seen this 43 times? The shift.
Oh, no, they've probably seen it more. Again, this comes down to, this is also for only balls put in play. Players will get shifted and then strike out. This is also only for ground balls and line drives. Players will see the shift and then hit a home run, hit a pop-up, hit any other type of fly ball.
Right.
So this is parameter-wise very specific. And they've seen, I'm very sure, just from Joey Gallo, they've seen it way more times than this. But, yeah, here's the team that's hit into the fewest shifts is still the Chicago White Sox with only 3. They only have 3 outs in this fashion, which is fucking bizarre. So I guess for them, they are immune to the shift? I don't know. So I removed the quality of contact part of this to see which team has the most hits with the shift on. Ground ball, line drive. But other than that, hits. And it's a huge difference. As now the Minnesota Twins have 263. Whereas before, the Texas Rangers led this list with 12.
Right.
The reason being, in my mind, is that a lot of line drives go over players' heads. And no shift would beat that. So that's why I didn't want to do it that way. But anyway, yeah, that's what that says, in case you were wondering.
Got it.
So then, I wanted to look at hits that were a ground ball or a line drive with poor to weak contact on no shift, standard defensive alignment. Okay? Just to see, in reference to the shift,
how it compares.
Okay. And Washington leads this list with 27 hits with a standard defensive alignment. Whereas, like I said previously, the Texas Rangers led this list with only 12 hits with the shift on.
Right.
That's a huge difference. Texas is actually 26th in baseball with only 6 hits in defense with a standard defensive alignment, and that's probably because they see a lot of shifts.
Yeah.
Wow. The bottom of this list is fascinating. So Texas is 26th with 6. Tied with Toronto, who also only has 6, and Cincinnati, who only has 6. And then second to last is the Yankees with 5. And then last place is the Angels with 2.
Wow.
Which is, how do you only have 2 hits? I understand, the other parameters, but, the fact that it can go from being 27 with the Washington Nationals to 2 for the Angels.
Right.
Maybe they just get shifted a lot, too. I don't know. But regardless, you can see like these are the exact same parameters outside of the defensive alignment, the exact same, and the numbers in general are larger.
Yeah.
So far we're speaking to the shift already.
Mm-hmm.
The number of outs with a standard defensive alignment. I just want to pull up for the shifted numbers, and this is going to be a lot more. This, however, will be on account of reps. Okay. So as we see, the St. Louis Cardinals have generated the most outs on ground balls and line drives with poor to weak contact, with no shift, standard defensive alignment, with 126 outs achieved, or I guess outs surrendered. Yeah, since this is from the batting perspective, they have done it 126 times.
So that's not. So they still got it a hit.
No. This is an out.
Oh,
this is
okay,
an out.
okay.
Yeah. They did that on a total of 17,568 pitches, which is just like that's like how many times they saw a pitch with this set of circumstances. Mm-hmm. Whereas with the actually. Ooh, this is interesting.
What's going on?
The outs that the Rangers were led up to, it says 18,444 pitches of such type, whereas the Nationals or the Cardinals are working with 17,000. That's a huge difference in not the right direction. That's very interesting. I wonder why maybe. See, now I'm wondering just how often the shift is laid on.
Right.
Because the Cardinals have done a phenomenal job of playing, getting outs without using the shift. Or I guess I should say the Cardinals have been doing a great job of hitting into outs where there's been no shift, since this is from the batting perspective.
Right.
126 times. Which leads me to believe maybe the Cardinals are just severely undershifted. Don't need a shift. Their batters are severely spray hitters, or their batters are just a terrible job at getting pulled shots that would achieve a need for a shift. Because this is not what I was expecting.
Right.
Because so far, for the first three of these, it was pretty on the nose for what I was going for.
Mm-hmm.
This one is fascinating. So the Washington Nationals have hit into 123 outs. With a standard defensive alignment.
Okay.
The Dodgers have it into 117 outs in a standard defensive alignment. At the bottom of this list, the least frequent team to hit into outs with the standard defensive alignment is Toronto, the Yankees, the Angels, the A's, and Boston. This is fast. I don't know what to make of this. I have no idea what to make of this. I'd have to assume that the teams here at the bottom are the teams that are going to get shifted on the most. So a standard defensive alignment for them probably won't achieve as many outs as a team that isn't getting shifted on more.
Right.
But now I would love to find a way to see what team just shifts the most. Give me some thoughts on this, Cal, while I try to throw something together.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay. Well, at the bottom of the list with Boston, they had 19,000 pitches, which is like 2,000 more pitches than the top of the list. Does that mean anything?
It just means, I guess, that they had more opportunity in that realm.
Okay.
But achieved fewer outs.
Okay.
So it probably says that they're pretty good. It says that they probably should have been shifted on more, since they generated fewer outs on more opportunities.
Right.
You know? So they generated fewer outs on more opportunities in a standard defensive alignment, which means that they probably should have had more opportunities with a shift on to generate more outs.
Right.
So
if
I'm interpreting this right, that is a team that has been undershifted.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. The other thing I'm wondering is what players require the shift the most? Like, is there a list generated?
Typically, it's left-handed hitters.
Okay.
Because the left side of the infield, third base and shortstop, those are typically your two best defenders.
Okay.
Your right side is first base and second base. Your first baseman is usually not a good fielder. He's He's going to be really... Yeah, Mike Ford, the most important thing you need from the defense of your first baseman is to pick the ball, to get it after it bounces off the dirt, to just keep a foot on the bag and stretch somewhere and grab it out of the air. It's not a lot of motion. Mm-hmm. Your second baseman is usually a good defender. You know, it's usually someone who got moved off a short because they're like, we're a good defender but not good enough for short.
Right.
But the idea there being that you just need a third guy. Especially if there's like someone on base so that your first baseman can hold him. So there's a lot of like uncovered territory there. Mm-hmm. So typically it's left-handed hitters like Bryce Harper, Joey Gallo. I'm trying to think of more. Okay. And I'm struggling.
It's okay.
Didi Gregorius. But it depends. It's usually left-handed batters that see it the most.
So then I wonder what... Because you're saying a team like Boston is undershifted?
Apparently, from if I'm getting it right, I that's what I'm thinking.
So then I wonder who makes that decision, by the way?
Typically, like the analysts that work with the team, like ultimately, quote unquote, the manager.
Okay.
But really, it's the analytics nerds in the front office will like issue a scouting report and say, you need 3 defenders on the left side against Vlad Guerrero Jr. because he pulls the ball a lot.
Got it.
I don't know if that's true, but that's just an example.
Okay.
All right, so I pulled up a search for batters grouped by team who have been shifted the most. And it appears as though Toronto is the most shifted team in baseball. Our top 5 here is Toronto, Texas, L.A. Dodgers, Cleveland, and then L.A. Angels of Anaheim, because go fuck themselves. And those are the teams that have been shifted the most. So this is so fascinating. If we go over to our with the shift on stats, I wonder if we can look at it side by side to make anything out of it. So which team has got the most hits with the shift on? We'll take away. I'm gonna just have the shift on, and I'm gonna do any type of hit, I'm gonna take away my line drive ground ball. I'm gonna take away my contact element. It's just batter, hits. I'll include home runs again. Let's just see how that does, and then I'll do it again for outs. I'll take away all other parameters, and we'll just see. Because now I want this as pure in the veins as possible.
Okay.
I feel like I'm losing all sense of how the shift works, and I need validation. Okay, so Minnesota still leads all of baseball with hits with the shift on.
Okay.
375. That seems like a lot. Minnesota has been shifted 6th most in baseball, 5,883 times.
So you have the most hits or the most outs?
The most hits.
Most hits for being the 6th
most shifted
team. Okay.
So since they've been shifted so much, though, I have to assume that they'll also appear near the top of the list for outs given up with the shift on. Let's find out.
All right.
They do. They're 4th.
Okay.
982 outs with the shift on. Okay. And Toronto's 1st. All right, so hold on. Let's do this. Ooh, this top 6 is the same top 6.
Yeah.
The top 6 for teams that have been shifted. Toronto, Texas, LAD, Cleveland, LAA, Minnesota. The top team 6s that have made outs with the shift on. Toronto, Texas, Cleveland, Minnesota, LAD, LAA of A.
Wow.
And then Chicago's number 7 on both as well. Philly's number 8 on both as well. Ooh, yeah. Oh, this tastes good. Okay, we're back. Oh, we are back. So those are what I was expecting to see.
Okay. So how about the bottom of the list?
And for which one?
Because I remember Boston being at the bottom for most outs.
Yeah, they were at the bottom for most outs without the shift on, which I've now fucked all my searches, so I'm not going to do it again because it would take so long.
Got you.
But now maybe we can get a little bit more accurate depiction of what I was talking about with which team has beat the shift the most. So
Yeah.
So Minnesota is probably going to be the answer to that because they've been shifted 6th most in baseball and they have the most hits with the shift on. So that would make a lot of sense.
And where are they on the outs list?
6th as well. They did, yeah. They were 6th for both. I think. Yeah, or no. They were 4th for outs.
Okay.
So they gave up the 4th most outs, but got the 1st most hit. They got the most hits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then the Dodgers, the Angels, Toronto, and Chicago have all also gotten the most. That's the rounding out the top 5 for most hits with the shift on, and those are all also teams that appear in the top 5 for having seen the shift. So that also seems to make sense. So who's on the bottom of our list for just not beating the shift? Oh, that makes so much sense. Wow. Okay. It's Detroit, 26. The Nationals, which is really surprising, at 27. The White Sox at 28. The Pirates, I'm sorry, Corwin, at 29. And the Marlins are the worst in general and also here. Although, to be fair, they actually are at the bottom of the list for seeing the shift as well. It's actually all of those same 5 teams. So now it just feels a little bit more one-to-one than I was expecting. This might have to be something that gets expanded upon in a future episode. Because I am in such a rabbit hole right now, and I don't know how to get out of it, but I want to find my way.
Okay. That's fair.
Do you have any questions in regards to the shift conversation thus far?
I think I asked all my questions. I did want to know. Okay. Here's one question: Are you allowed to decide whether you want to play defensively, if you want to use the shift during the game? Like, can you switch back and forth with your defense?
The defense will switch based on the pitch, based on the count.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, because you might want to shift, but it might be a good situation for where the batter would want to bunt. So you'll leave your third baseman in really close to protect against the bunt, have everyone else on like the right side of the infield. But then once 2 strikes come on, a bunt that goes foul with 2 strikes is actually a strikeout. It's not a foul ball. So in that case, because the odds of a player bunting go down by so much because it becomes so much more risky,
right,
the third baseman will no longer sit there. Like, he'll go back to wherever he would have been with the shift on, and then that's an instance of it changing within an at bat. So there's a lot that happens with it that way. So basically, all right. So in basketball, if you're set in a defense, you can change it whenever you want at whatever play. It doesn't matter if the ball's in play, out of play. And sometimes what teams will do is set up in like one specific defense, and as the ball is coming across half court, then switch to man to kind of throw off the offense. Does that happen in baseball where they're set for something in one at a certain pitch, or does the defense have to be set before the pitcher sets up? No, the defense can move around as much as they want. Okay. Does that happen often? Where they're like trying to like psych out a batter or something? It's more so you'll see it for players trying to psych out a base runner. Oh, okay. So if there's someone leading off a second base, like obviously they don't want him to steal third, because if you're the team that is pitching, a runner on third is significantly worse than a runner on second. Right. And so what you might see is the second baseman, because the second baseman doesn't hold a player to the bag. Okay. Or a shortstop for that matter. So you might see the second baseman or shortstop playing their natural position, but then to fuck with the runner, they'll run towards second base like there's about to be a pickoff attempt, even if there isn't going to be one, just to try to get the runner to go back. Right. And you can do that whenever you want. Okay. So I've almost got something interesting here, which is a really stupid sentence, but it's the one I'm going with. Okay. Also about the shift? Yeah, it's to answer a question you had previously, and unfortunately I just have so many tabs open that my computer isn't going very fast, but here we go. So out of players who have seen at least 300 pitches in the MLB this year, as a percent of pitches that they've seen, how often they've been shifted. Okay. The leader is, as I said, Joey Gallo. Mm-hmm. He is the poster child for shifting. He is a massive left-handed hitter. Huge power, never bunts. He is the poster child for shifting. He has been shifted in 94% of his at-bats. Sorry, 94% of the pitches he has faced.
Wow.
Which is just fucking colossal.
Yeah.
Then it's Alex Avila, Chris Davis, Crush Davis, Baltimore Orioles Davis, Jay Bruce, and Curtis Granderson, which is that's interesting. I don't know what to make of that, but it's interesting. Yeah. So go figure. But if you were wondering, Cal, who is the most shifted man in baseball?
Joey Gallo.
As I said, as he is the poster child of Joey Gallo.
So the shift only happens with the infield players, correct?
Yeah. Well, so you can do it with the outfield players. There's the 5-man outfield. There's having like the center fielder shifted over towards like right center or left center, depending on pull tendencies for fly balls. But it's most famous for being with the infield.
Okay.
All right. Anything else before we kind of wrap it up?
No, you've answered all my questions about the shift. I've learned more today about baseball than I have in my entire life. So.
Well, stay tuned. All right. If you want to follow the show, you can do so on Twitter at JuicingPod. If you want to hit us up via email, you can do so at juicingthenumbers@gmail.com. And if you want to see the show notes for this episode and all previous episodes, you can do so at juicingthenumbers.wixsite.com/website. Keep your eyes open. We will be doing a collaborative episode with the guys at Sports Trebuchet in the upcoming weeks. And possibly more news to follow on some other exciting stuff. Things are happening. Consider yourself in on the ground floor, folks. Yeah, you know. Anyway, until Monday, y'all have a good one.